So now the next item in the new business, which we just moved around, is the Education Connection 2012-13 lunch program.
So Christine, you want to scooch up here?
Sure.
Give you a chair if you want. I'll put a chair behind you,
Okay,
Christine.
thank you. I understand you have a basic outline. I also brought the new menu and a very basic listing of some of the regulation changes that USDA has implemented starting in, well, they were released in January. The first of those must be implemented by the first day of school this year.
Christine, excuse me just for a minute, just as an introduction, so for the public members who need to understand why you're here. We've had, this is a follow-up discussion, board members, from last spring or in June when we talked about the repeated deficits in the food service account. And so I've had a number of meetings with Christine Wallace, who is the director of the food service piece at Education Connection, and also with her boss, to look seriously at the management plan for Education Connection servicing us and our lunch program to determine how we can reduce or eliminate that repeated deficit that we have in our food service account, which is a freestanding account. It's not an account directly linked to our board budget per se, more of that later, but it is a self-sustaining account. The board has had to subsidize it each year because it's been in a deficit mode, but so this plan that Christine and I, along with Jay Hubblebank from Education Connection, is just that, a plan for reducing or eliminating that deficit. So, and you have a copy of that, and you did get a copy in your board package of the plan.
So basically, this sort of outlines the approach that anyone would use in trying to balance a budget, which is simultaneously increasing revenue where realistic and reasonable, and looking at expenses and seeing where you can reduce some of the expenses. I will note that under the very specific expense reductions, we did not address labor at this point. There was a change made this past year. And not knowing as we move forward what your configuration of buildings will be over the next year to two, we're going to do what's called a meals per labor hour study, which balances out the number of meals being served at each site against the number of labor hours assigned to that school to see whether we're under or overstaffed. I will tell you that it's a challenging situation when you have two buildings like Bakerville and New Hartford with very small enrollments. As I'm sure you try to balance maintenance costs and staffing, the food service situation is the same. You really do need a certain threshold, if you will, of activity to support any presence there. So we'll be doing all three buildings with the labor study that I mentioned, and certainly present our recommendations, but meanwhile we'll work as effectively as we can at all three buildings to improve the program, entice more children, engage them to participate in the program. And we also have some challenges, as you can see on the implementation timeline. We also have USDA helping us along here with lots of new rules and regulations in the coming year. So they're all good steps. They're all important and need to be taken, but they certainly are going to really stretch our creativity and rules of engagement with our student population. So are there any specific questions on any of the three sheets?
You want to review each, so you've got a purchasing improvements that you want to make, and then there are marketing and promoting programs, which is an area that we've been talking about for numerous years. The board, most of the members are familiar with some of the things we've done, so you're promoting, you're going to add, some commitment to getting some more, and then additional savings.
Yes, purchasing food costs, I mean, everyone goes to the grocery store, so I don't have to tell you that. The same mechanism that is affecting prices in the local grocery store for families also affects commercial establishments when we do our purchasing. Gas prices affect us even more because all of our food is delivered by vehicles, and those expenses are passed along in the cost of our food. So as much as your food dollars are being stretched in your own homes, we experience that same situation. So we have tried to set up a system that will monitor as carefully as possible everything that's being purchased by the district, so that we get the best value for the dollars being spent, and also maximizing our USDA commodity entitlements, so that every single entitlement dollar is utilized. Is everyone familiar with the USDA commodity? Every district is entitled to a certain volume of USDA commodity food items, and it's based on the number of children that are served each day. The commodity products vary from year to year, and truly what they are is when all of our growers and meat producers across the country have sold what they can sell to the average retailer. There's, in a good bumper year, there are surpluses of certain kinds of products or commodities. USDA purchase those off at market prices so that prices are kept stable, and farmers and meat grower processors don't suffer huge losses. They then take these surplus commodities and channel them into the educational schools. They're in correctional systems, and they're used in the military. So that's where those kinds of products go. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not rejects. They're simply surplus items. Some years we have lots of apple products. There have been some serious droughts in parts of the country that will affect the kinds of items that we will see this year. And we never truly know from month that those are delivered monthly. And they are not priced like you might think. You know, a case of frozen hamburgers, which might go for $50 to $60 from one of our regular vendors, versus a case of frozen carrots, which might go for $17. When you get your commodity products from USDA, a case of frozen product is the same price regardless of what it is. A case of canned product is the same price per case regardless of what it is. So you can see what a bonus it is to utilize these products. We can, specifically the cheeses and the meats, which are very expensive, or the most expensive, part of our menu purchasing out on the open market. So we want to make sure that we utilize every one of those USDA entitlement dollars that we get, because they stretch our food dollar much, much farther. As far as marketing and promoting, we want to create a more visible and positive presence to parents, and to that end, I have contacted PTO people about doing a presentation for their meetings about the food service and just talking about our initiatives. The Bakerville Library is doing a presentation there on wellness in general and how the school district is working toward helping the community achieve a healthier environment. We are utilizing the back of the menus and newsletters on the website in helping to promote the program and letting the public know some of behind-the-scenes activities and why we do some of the things we do. I think just a better understanding and communication about details. When parents are comfortable, they're going to be more positive, encouraging with the children about participating in the program. So that's part of our initiative there.
And they're using Friday folder as a means of regular means of communication.
I will say that New Hartford is the most paperless district that I deal with, so it's impressive.
That didn't happen on its own. So.
And without some pain, I'm guessing also. One of the interesting things, right above the labor study, it says additional USDA reimbursement. USDA is very aware of the unfunded mandate, if you will, for their new regulations. The estimation and projection of the increase in food costs to implement the new regulations is approximately 33 cents between lunch and breakfast. There's no breakfast right now in New Hartford, but about 27 cents, I think, is estimated to be the average increase in food price to meet the new regs. The per meal reimbursement rate went up 9 cents from last year to this current year, so we're already behind. In their efforts to assist us, though, all districts who have submitted sample menus to show that they are meeting the new regulations, effective October 1st of this year, will get an additional 0.6 cents per meal. Doesn't seem like a lot, but when you take one child eating 180 meals a day, and then you multiply that by another 100, it's, as you can see, we estimate, based on last year's number of meals served, that just the additional 6 cents starting on October 1st is another almost $2,600. And when you're trying to make up lost ground, it's small increments like that that help you get to where you need to be.
One of the things we didn't talk about though, which will be further impacted, is the fact that our enrollment has declined further because we've exited, what did I tell you, 98, 99 sixth graders. And so the existing kindergarten moves into now the lunch wave, and they're, what, 72 kids. So we've already, there's a net loss of,
Makes
what,
it even more challenging.
27 kids, 26
We have to
kids.
cultivate a really strong customer base.
Right.
In your research, are you counting how many kids order 2 lunches?
We haven't, because in the number of meals that are used in these formulas to calculate sales and reimbursements, we can only, the numbers that we're pulling are first meals only. We can only claim a reimbursement on a first meal. The second meal gets no additional reimbursement. So the only income from a second full meal is the price paid for that meal.
Do we have situations where there's multiple lunches?
I wouldn't know that.
The
Probably
kids
fourth
are
and
allowed
fifth
to buy a
graders.
double lunch.
Do they?
Sixth graders.
My son has.
I always found that the portions were quite substantial overall.
There's some portion changes.
That man eats regularly in our lunch.
Well,
I have a big boy.
I've been to several Friday pizzas.
You will notice some changes in portions. You'll notice larger portions of fruits and vegetables, fewer servings of grain items, and when I say grain items, I'm referring to rice, pasta, rolls, breadsticks, volume of pizza crust, the grain items. And not so much at this level, but at the higher grade levels, there's a slight change in the protein reductions, which is going to be, that there's some negative impact to the regulation changes. The overall intent is good and needs to be done, but the initial impact for our student customers is we're going to have to do some PR work to override their initial, what they perceive to be smaller portions, and I'm paying more this year.
And just make sure the broccoli's on my son's plate.
Now, good.
Questions for Christine?
I guess just on a high level, you said the menu, I just looked at briefly. Besides what you just said, are there a lot of changes? I admit, we do not buy lunch, I'm sorry, but I don't. Besides pizza, are these new, a lot of them? What's the percentage of changes going on here?
Part of the changes that are embedded in that menu is you should be able to pick out one plant-based protein source a week, which is now required. You see, I hope you see one each
Oh,
week.
yeah.
Okay, if I'm doing my job. You should see dark leafy greens 2 to 3 times per week. And you may not be able to pick them out. You will notice it should no longer say just garden salad or lettuce and tomato. It will specify the green. It will say romaine or spring greens, very specific greens that have a higher nutrient level. You should find red, orange vegetables on 2 times a week. That would include sweet potatoes, tomatoes, red peppers. As we get into the winter, it'll be the hard squashes. Whole grains, starting this school year, half of any grain items that are served over a 5-day period must be 51% or more whole grain. All grains, all of the grains served. Starting in 2014, every single grain item we serve must be whole
Oh, yeah,
grain.
that's
confusing.
good stuff.
And please don't confuse that. I've had some
It's not whole
staff.
wheat.
Yeah, whole wheat is not the only whole grain. There are
Exactly.
corn items that are whole grain, and brown rice is a whole grain. So when I say whole grain, please don't just think whole wheat, because there's many more grains out there that are whole grain items.
There's white whole wheat too. Looks just like white bread.
And I just was saying, I got confused, and Brian had to straighten me out. When you put the reduced underneath daily full price, I get confused, I'm like, there's 2 reduced, not realizing you meant for the daily
For the
reduced
whole
price.
month and
Yeah,
then
versus for the, it was confusing the way it's written,
maybe I can restructure that.
that was perfect.
So I noticed you're not doing Pizza Fridays every Friday.
They're not written on the menu every Friday, however, pizza is available as an alternate every Friday.
Okay. Because I think, well, frankly,
That
it's
was
saved,
one of our marketing
well,
issues.
it saved us, I think, a couple of years
I
ago to try
buckled
to improve a
under
little
that
bit.
one, I'll
We
be the
pressured her.
first one to admit that. We didn't wanna offer it as the menu choice every Friday, because it does limit the number of new things we can, I mean, if you think of every Friday as just being, that really only leaves us 4 menu days, truly. However, it is so popular and it's an ingrained ritual in many districts. So, sort of a concession was to alternate Fridays where it actually appears on the menu, but still having it available as a choice on those other alternate Fridays.
I think we can restructure that and make that a little bit more clear.
I want articulate.
Like, say reduced,
We'll let her do
yeah.
it.
Just confused, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
I
to.
agree. Does anyone have any other questions?
I think this menu looks a lot more appetizing than last one.
Could you repeat
It's
that,
not really a
please?
question, it's a statement. I think this, reading this menu sounds
For
a lot
us.
more appetizing than last year's.
So that means we can count you as a
I
two-time
didn't say
customer?
that. But I'll come into school and taste the
Oh,
lunch.
you know,
I will
You
taste
do.
the lunch.
another thing I just wanted to mention, thank you, you just jogged my memory. In our efforts to engage students and to eliminate some of the perceptual difference between always having brought a lunch from home and starting to try meals, we're having Tasting Tuesdays once a month, in which 2 to 3 new items will be available at no charge, not in the serving line, out in the dining areas. And that's another project we're looking to work with the PTO on, getting a volunteer or 2 to come in and help us with those initiatives.
Which really, the reason I high-five Elaine is
Which
that
is
it
wellness.
is wrapped into wellness, and we've had Christine participate in our wellness meetings, and also Donna, who runs our kitchen. So some of these ideas hopefully will dovetail together.
These are some great new regulation changes. I mean, diversifying the kinds of vegetables being served that are much more nutrient dense. But even if we prepare very delicious foods that are very eye appealing, very nutritious, and high quality, and even if a student is required to take a fruit or vegetable off their tray and they sit down with it, does not still mean that it's going to be consumed. And truly, that's the ultimate goal. So that's why the tastings are so important.
Well, I think last year, somebody was giving out stars. My son came home with a star and he's, Mom, I don't understand why I got a star. I said, what do you mean? And it said, I got a star for eating my broccoli. What's so big about that?
That may have been an individual thing.
Yeah, but,
I don't
but
know.
We do
something
have
would be-
stickers for those tasting days, and the stickers are circles that have various versions of I tried it. And then there's also certificates for the 2-bite, it's called a 2-bite club, if you're familiar with that little promotional aspect. It's a tiny little certificate that indicates that they've not only taken a new food, but actually they've done more than just kind of, you know, I've taken the 2-bite club, so. I know, it sounds amusing, but these are the kinds of gimmicks, if you will, that engage the kids and take that I'm not so sure about this out of it, and you make it fun and you make a little incentive at the end of that.
The other
Especially
thing-
at our age level, that's what type of things they need.
The other thing that I don't believe this management plan factors in, I can't see it, I know we talked about it with the draft version, is the increase in price, correct?
Yes.
It's just 75.
It does have that
Is that- well, it
factored
says-
in?
Oh, no, not in there, sorry, I was
No.
looking at the menu, just says.
Right. So that hasn't factored in the management plan, in this particular management plan, is that correct?
You know, I'm
That
not
was
sure.
some-
Yeah, I will redo that.
Yeah.
I will redo that.
I think for tonight's purpose, they understand that there are.
275 is correct, that's, if I recall, we increased it.
No, I
But
know
we're
that
saying
you said
over
it
the
right,
first
but
year.
it's
management
in the
plan.
management
Yeah,
plan,
got it.
so the numbers might be a little,
Okay,
they're not as
yeah.
targeted as,
Yeah,
they're based on 250.
okay.
We
Got
will, I think we've acknowledged that we will likely go through a dip because of the increase in price, based on history, based on people more familiar with
That's
this
the trend,
information,
yes.
that's the trend. But then again, it picks up, but then again, we have fewer kids, so there's a lot of things factoring into this.
not sure if this is the time for this question, but the price, we haven't notified the schools. As a parent, I have not been notified.
I have.
That the price, how did you get notified?
I got a letter that said there was a price increase to $275.
Where did the letter come in?
I think it came with the teacher.
Was it in there?
Oh, I
It came
did.
with the teacher assignment.
I think there was notification.
Maybe it was on the.
There's
I
a letter
also
that goes
think
to every
it's
single
on the-
household.
No, it should be everybody.
There's a letter that
Well, there
I'm
is-
doing right now that each child will get on the very first day of school. It's a
That's
letter
on my letter.
introducing them to the
From Mike. Mike sent, well, it was in here, but I think I also have it, it's in with my teacher notification, but the letter from
I'll
Mike.
We'll also
double
get
check
it,
this
it's
out.
also been on the website.
Well, I just wanna
So-
make sure before they start school
Linda,
and not
Linda put it on
causing
the website for me,
panic
so.
and people get mad and.
It's on
Is
the
there
website,
Friday
I saw.
folders going out this week prior to
Yes.
school starting? There is?
Yes, Mike, I think Mike said there was something going home this Friday.
Okay, that
This
might be a
one?
good thing to include in there.
Yeah, this one came last week
All right.
from Mike.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, and we appreciate your efforts to try to make this
Well,
a
thanks
better
for the
situation
support.
for us.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.